Hello and welcome to the World in English. I'm Jake.
And I'm Sophia. And today we are doing something a little different.
Today we are going to be completely honest with you about our mistakes.
Our biggest, most embarrassing, most relatable English learning mistakes.
Because we talk a lot on this channel about what works, today we want to talk about what didn't.
And if this is your first time here, welcome to the World in English. We are a community of people learning English together, not a classroom, a family.
So make sure you subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss what we make next, and leave us a comment before you go. Tell us your biggest English learning mistake. We want to know we are not alone.
Trust me, you are not alone.
Okay, Sophia, you go first. What is your biggest English learning mistake?
There are so many, but the biggest one, the one I wasted the most time on, was passive learning.
Passive learning?
For almost 2 years, I studied English by watching films, listening to music, reading articles, and I told myself I was learning, and in a way I was. My understanding was getting better, but my speaking stayed exactly the same.
Because you were never actually speaking.
Never. I was absorbing English like a sponge, but never using it. And then one day, someone asked me a simple question in English, and I completely froze. 2 years of studying, and I couldn't answer a basic question about my weekend.
That must have been a horrible moment.
It was devastating. I remember thinking, what have I been doing? And the answer was clear. I had been learning about English instead of learning to use English. They are completely different things.
That is such an important distinction. What did you change after that?
Everything. I started speaking every day, even to myself. I joined an online conversation group. I started making mistakes in front of other people. And those first few weeks of actually speaking were more useful than 2 years of passive study.
I think a lot of people listening right now recognize themselves in that story.
I hope so, because if you are doing the same thing, if you are only reading and listening and never speaking, I want you to hear this. The speaking is the point. Everything else is preparation. But at some point, you have to step on the stage.
Well said. My mistake was almost the opposite of yours.
Really? What do you mean?
I was obsessed with grammar. Completely obsessed. I had grammar books, grammar apps, grammar worksheets. I could explain the difference between the present perfect and the past simple better than most teachers.
And was that a problem?
It was when it stopped me from speaking. I would think of something to say in English and then spend 10 seconds checking it in my head. Is this the right tense? Is this the right preposition? Is this grammatically correct? And by the time I had checked everything, the moment had passed.
The passive grammar paralysis.
Exactly. I was so afraid of making a grammatical mistake that I said nothing instead, which is the worst possible option.
Because saying something imperfect is always better than saying nothing.
Always. And here's the irony. When I finally started speaking without checking every sentence, my grammar actually improved faster because I was getting real feedback from real conversations.
That makes complete sense. You learn grammar best by using it, not by studying it.
I spent 2 years memorizing rules that I could have learned in 6 months by just talking to people. It still frustrates me a little when I think about it.
Don't be too hard on yourself. We all find the wrong door before we find the right one. What is your second biggest mistake?
Comparing myself to native speakers. I used to watch English YouTubers, English podcasters, English actors, and measure myself against them. And of course, I always fell short. My vocabulary wasn't as rich, my pronunciation wasn't as clean, my sentences weren't as smooth. And
How did that comparison make you feel?
terrible. It made me feel like fluency was an impossible destination. Like no matter how hard I worked, I would never get there.
Because you were comparing your beginning to someone else's decade of experience.
Exactly. That person on YouTube who sounds completely fluent and natural, they've been speaking English for 20 years. I had been studying for 2. It was not a fair comparison. It wasn't even a useful comparison.
Who should you compare yourself to instead?
Yourself. Yourself from 3 months ago. Yourself from 6 months ago. That is the only comparison that tells you anything true about your progress.
I made that mistake too. I had a friend who was learning English at the same time as me. She was faster. She picked up vocabulary more quickly. Her pronunciation was more natural. She seemed more confident in conversations.
And how did that make you feel?
jealous and ashamed of the jealousy, which made everything worse. I started avoiding conversations in English because I didn't want to look worse than her.
That is such a human reaction and so counterproductive.
Completely. Because while I was avoiding English to protect my pride, she was out there practicing and getting even better. The gap grew because of my own avoidance.
What changed?
I had an honest conversation with myself. I asked, do I want to be better than my friend, or do I want to speak English? Because those are different goals, and only one of them is worth working toward.
And you chose English.
I chose English, and the moment I stopped watching her progress and started watching my own, everything changed. She was still ahead of me, but I stopped caring because I was moving.
That is a really powerful shift. Let's talk about some practical things people can do to avoid these mistakes.
Yes, first, if you are only passively studying English, reading, listening, watching, add speaking today, not next week, today. Even 5 minutes of talking to yourself out loud counts. The speaking muscle only grows if you use it.
Second, if grammar is stopping you from speaking, make a rule. You're allowed 1 grammar mistake per sentence. Just 1. That's your budget. Now spend it and speak.
Third, stop comparing yourself to native speakers. They are not your competition. They are your destination. Compare yourself to who you were last month, and you will always find progress.
Fourth, if you have a friend who is learning faster than you, do not avoid them. Practice with them. Their level will pull yours up, not make you feel worse if you let it.
And fifth, when you make a mistake in English, and you will, say to yourself, that mistake just taught me something, because it did. Every wrong sentence is a data point. Every embarrassing moment is a memory, and memories are how we learn.
Now, before we go, we ask you at the start to share your biggest English learning mistake in the comments. We really mean it.
Because someone else reading your comment might see themselves in it, and they might feel less alone, and that might be the thing that keeps them going today.
That is what this community is for, not just to learn English, but to learn it together.
If this video helped you today, please give it a like and subscribe to The World in English.
Share it with someone who is learning English and struggling right now. This might be exactly what they need to hear.
See you in the next video. Keep going, mistakes and all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.